Hey, this is Eric. This time I'm going to be talking about VHS Gems. If you go back to the December 2012 episode of the Film Podcast, you will hear me talking with the hosts Ricardo and Brian Sauer from Rupert Pumpkin Speaks blog about movies that are only available on VHS. First off, there were 3 films that were on my list of 10 that time around that have now come out on either DVD or Blu-ray. And right here they are. So I cannot find my VHS copy of Dangerously Close. I probably packed it away, but it's on Blu-ray now. Good film, worth checking out. Next up we have Plain Clothes, and now I have it on both VHS and Blu-ray. It's another film I enjoy. And lastly, we've got Last Days of Chez Noon. I have yet to buy the DVD that came out, but it is out there. So anybody wants to check that stuff out, I highly recommend it. It's now available on DVD and Blu-ray. So getting back to my list, and a lot of these are going to be exactly the same things I talked about on that episode of the Film Podcast, but I've thrown a few extras in to replace those. Starting off with Bill Forsyth's Comfort and Joy. It's a great Scottish film about a radio DJ that gets stuck in a war between ice cream salespeople. There's no reason this isn't out on DVD in the States, except for the fact that, for whatever reason, cult foreign films from the 80s and 90s seem to be MIA largely on DVD or Blu-ray in the States. Speaking of which, interesting Japanese/Icelandic film, Cold Fever. It's about a salaryman who wants to go on vacation to play golf, but instead is compelled to go to Iceland to pay respect to his parents who died in a boating accident. This is a road trip film across Iceland. There's actually, if you can see the cast there, if I can get that right, maybe a few names you recognize. Great little film. Once again, not available in the States, at least on DVD or Blu-ray. That's a shame. Next up, we've actually got 2 films from Australia that fall into the exact same problem and actually have some crossover cast-wise. Let's go with Love and Other Catastrophes first. Great little college indie film about people figuring out who they are. It's not for everyone. I like it. This is one of those low-budget 90s indie, not quite rom-coms. There's a face here you might recognize. That's Radha Mitchell, who's been in all kinds of stuff. So this is one of her early films. And then there's some other cast members here. Matt Dave from Mariel's Wedding. Frances O'Connor, who's, I believe, in Mansfield Park. And Matt Day and Frances O'Connor also popped up in this great little Australian noir road film, Kiss or Kill, that I don't want to say too much about it, but it's a really good film. Once again, no reason that I have a VHS that plays in the States, but I can't get a Blu-ray or a DVD of either of these here. Speaking of crime films, Nails with Dennis Hopper. This was a made-for-cable movie. By the way, I did not pay $90 for this. I got it for like $10 used. Not the world's best film, but this was directed by John Flynn, who did a lot of great stuff back in the 70s. You know, he did The Outfit, and yeah, just great, solid noir stuff, made for cable. Once again, no reason in the world that it's not on DVD or Blu-ray. Same thing for Laguna Heat, which isn't great, but it's good. This is based on the novel by T. Jefferson Parker. It's got a good cast: Harry Hamlin, Jason Robards, L.A. Noir from the 80s. This is comparable to the Spencer series. This is comparable to any number of mass market crime thrillers from the 80s. This is sitting in a vault somewhere. Why? Speaking of adaptations, 8 Million Ways to Die, Hal Ashby's final film. Yes, it's troubled, it's not perfect. It's based on the same source material that A Walk Among the Tombstones is, the Larry Block, Matt Scudder books. But I mean, come on, Jeff Bridges, L.A. Noir. Everybody who's a fan of The Big Lebowski is likely to check this out just out of curiosity. If Cutter's Way is on Blu-ray or DVD, why isn't this? Staying in LA, we're going to talk about one of my favorite punk rock films. This is just a nice, fun punk rock comedy from the late 80s, featuring the Screaming Sirens, who were one of my favorite cowpunk bands, unknown band. I mean, this isn't going to set the world on fire, but it's a fun film. It's got some great performances. It's got some great music. And it's also got a great message about your family's expectations of you should not dictate what you do with your life. Be who you are. Don't try to be something you're not, but you don't have to conform. So, The Running Kind, come on, Echo Bridge, Mill Creek, put this out. Speaking of LA punk rock movies, this isn't really punk rock, but Scenes from the Gold Mine, starring Catherine Mary Stewart. Great, not so great, but a solid B film about the rock and roll business in the late 80s. It's got some great music. It's got some great cameos from people that you might know. Once again, no reason that this is not out on DVD or streaming for that matter. I'm going to show you the back because, quite frankly, the woman that's on the front of this is not in the film. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm sure that it's the music rights that are holding this up. There's a song by Melissa Etheridge on here, one that she wrote for them, so that might be holding it up. Either way, it's an enjoyable film. There's all kinds of junk getting releases. Why not this? Two more. So we all know in the 80s there was a lot of after-the-bomb flicks that were basically westerns. Mad Max is basically, Road Warrior is basically Shane. So is Steel Dawn. World Gone Wild, Seven Samurai, After the Bomb with Adam Ant, Bruce Dern, and yes, once again, Catherine Mary Stewart. Why? Just put it out with Neon City on a double disc. Scream Factory, somebody like that could do a great job with it. I saw this in the theater when it came out. It's not an Oscar winner, but it was enjoyable. It captures a certain spirit of the time. The cast is solid. Why not? If I can get DEFCON 4 on DVD, but I can't get World Gone Wild, there's a problem. And I don't think music rights potentially is this one. Speaking of music rights, speaking of Catherine Mary Stewart, speaking of films that I love, and I've spoken about this enough times online. If you go to my blog, you can find me having written about this multiple times. Dudes. John Cryer, Daniel Roebuck, Catherine Mary Stewart, Leaving from Fear, punk rock western. Starts off as slice of life New York City punks, then has a little bit of a road trip movie, and then it becomes a revenge movie. It's unlike anything else you'll ever see. I happen to have caught it at the right point in my life that it's a very important film to me that I love. That looks great. There's some great cinematography. There's some good stuff in here. It's also got a fan base. Music rights are most likely what's holding this up. The soundtrack has bands like Jane's Addiction and Megadeth, so that's most likely what's hanging this up. I know that there was recently a screening in Los Angeles with Daniel Roebuck, John Cryer, Catherine Mary Stewart, and Penelope Spheris, the director, she's a major director, where there's talk now that this is potentially going to get an actual release. But until then, this is the best you can do for a legitimate release. Come on, let's get this taken care of. I'm sure everyone else has a bunch of other movies that are out of print or have not been released on DVD that they would love to have in their collection. And one more thing before I go. So, I was saying that Love and Other Catastrophes is not on DVD or Blu-ray. It is in Australia. This is an Australian copy that I stumbled across at a library sale, and that's why I have it. But I would love to have a Region 1 American release so that I can actually watch it. I actually do have a region-free player, but I don't pull it out all that often. So it's a pain for me to have to hook this up. All right, that's it. Enjoy. Check out the comments. Let me know what you think. Talk to you all later.